1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's the 10 Cut Commandments, what?
What up, world? It's your boy, or should I say, it's your boss, Kamal Nuru, a.k.a. Zoe Mega Millions. You are now tuned in to BWTV. I'm sitting here with my brother, Jackpot, known most famously for the King Midas tape. What's up, brother?
Everything's good, man. Barber World, what's going on, everybody? King Midas in the building.
You feel me? Jackpot, let the people know how you got started in the barber industry. What inspired you?
The barber industry or the barber profession? Because those are two separate entities.
Well, thank you for clarifying. And in fact, let's bring it back one and say, where are you from?
Well, I was born in Paterson, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I bounced around between Passaic and Paterson, you know what I mean? Then I ended up moving to Long Island, you know what I mean? So, but I lived the majority of my life in Long Island, so I would say I'm from Strong Island.
Strong Island in the building.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what inspired you to be a barber?
Well, what inspired me to be a barber was, you know, I had a situation, you know, where I had to make a decision with what I wanted to do in my life, you know what I mean? And the Clippers just happened to be there, you know what I mean? I was one of them kids that was in the streets for a little while, you know, like many of us. And, you know, I had to make a decision as to what I want to do in my life, you know? So, not to say I was forced, because like I said, I've been cutting my boys' hair since way back, you know what I mean?
Around what age?
Around 14 to 15, I was cutting a homie's hair, you know, from the block. They was taking care of me and all that in my garage. You know, one of them type of stories. And, you know, from that point on, you know, I ended up getting to the point where, you know, the clippers weren't really, they were for fun, you know what I mean? It's something I loved, you know, because I loved the draw and all that, so I was nice with the little designs. So from there, you know, I ended up putting them down for a little while, you know, getting involved in what the young boys do from New York in the hood, you know what I mean? But, you know, later on in life, I had to make a decision as to what I want to do with my life. And, you know, the clippers was always there, always consistent. You know what I mean? So, you know, like many of us who came from those areas, you know, the Clippers actually, you know, took me to a better place.
Right. If you remember, tell me, what is your first set of clippers?
My first set of clippers, it depends, because the first time I ever started like playing with something that cut was like my pops had like one of them joints with the little flip at the end with the straight edge,
right? Where
it was a machine. It was a Norelco.
Or Norelco, okay.
So it had like a little straight edge for the sideburns, and you know you cut them, and then you know, so that's what they was meant for. But of course, you know, I was taking them and doing parts with them and all that crazy stuff. So I don't know if that was probably the first one. But then my first like fading clipper was probably like one of the white joints, the
like a
home joints.
home clipper.
Yeah.
Shout out to Wall, man. A lot of barbers started with they had the professional and they had the home clippers, which allowed a lot of people to get their introductory into barbering through those clippers that you could get not necessarily in a barber supply store. You could get those clippers in a supermarket or you know what do you say, like a Walmart or CVS or something like
Family
that.
Dollar.
No
Nowadays,
doubt. No doubt.
You had to take them and you had to like adjust them to do the edge ups. And you know they wasn't built for that, so they scab people up left and right. You know what I mean? Because you had to zero gap them. So, you know, but that's how.
We made them work.
Exactly. You know, so
no doubt.
We artists like that.
No question. So how'd you make your transition from cutting at home in the garage into a barbershop?
Well, once again, what happened was, you know, I had to do something with my life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I came from the era where barbering was something that we knew had value as barbers, but the rest of the world didn't. So, it was all I had. So that, to me, it was valuable.
Right.
But, you know, I had to do what I had to do to figure out how I can go from a barbershop to owning my own barbershop. Right. You know what I mean? So I was working for somebody, which lasted a short period of time, and then I ended up doing my own thing, you know, within a year. Right. But I was fresh out of barber school.
What's the name of the school that you attended?
You know, I went to the legendary Atlas Barber School.
Oh, wow. You kind of old school, man.
Yeah, you know. Well, it closed in 2013.
No doubt, no doubt.
I'm definitely OG status, you know what I mean?
Shout out to Leo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So so I was there for a little while and got my license from there while I was working at a barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
So once I ended up because I was like, as I was working at the barbershop, I was taking the train up here, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up getting my license from up here, and then automatically, I stayed in the shop for a few more months.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I had already stacked up enough for me to do what I got to do, and then I opened up my own shop.
So what was the first barbershop that you worked at before you opened up your own?
It was called House. Well, actually, it was a few of them, but the one where I had my first steady one was called House of Fades in Brentwood, Long Island.
Okay, Brentwood, Long Island.
Yeah.
What year did you open up your own shop, and what's the name of that shop?
Well, it was Blazing Cuts.
Blazing Cuts.
Yeah, it was a little hood. You know what I mean? So it was like, I would say the end of maybe 99.
Mm-hmm.
So but that didn't last long, you know what I mean? Because it was actually across from a precinct.
Okay.
So,
The
things
block was hot.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I kind of put it there strategically to make sure that I didn't have that type of following.
Mm-hmm.
But I was young, so a lot of that element followed me.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, real soon right after that, I had to move it. Then I moved it to a different location, and I'm still there. So
Yeah.
like I said,
And the name of that shop and where you are right now?
Evolution.
Evolution.
Barbershop, Patchogue, Long Island.
And I mean, you must have really had the entrepreneur spirit, because not most barbers start off in a shop and then get their license and then open up their own location within a year. So, how was you stacking that paper?
I mean, that was my mentality from the beginning.
Right.
You know what I mean? My mentality. I already had a goal in mind,
Uh-huh.
I was doing 50-50 with the boss,
Uh-huh.
So,
That was motivation.
I mean, that was just like disrespectful to me. But
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted to look at it as motivation, I was just looking at it like, damn, 50-50. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can't really live like this.
I could dig it, and you had your master license.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, we're gonna get to the hot spot right now. You know what I'm saying?
Let's go.
I think we covered the basics. And what inspired you, make the move forward to having your own brand in regards to the King Midas capes, which really took off? What inspired you, and how'd you make that happen?
Well, now we're talking about the industry. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the industry at that point, they really weren't catering to barbers.
Right.
I think they were more catering towards hairstylists. A lot of the products we had was like, there was flimsy, there was garbage. I mean,
Yeah.
as a barber, I was just kind of like, I could do better than this.
Right.
That was my mentality. So I already knew exactly what we wanted, exactly what we was looking for. Just being a barber and being around it for so long and just living that lifestyle, I knew that there was more to us than what they was offering to us. you
Right.
know?
Right.
These companies and these people that aren't barbers that's making products, just like just putting it there for you, like, yo, here, you know what I mean? Like, this all you can, this is all you deserve.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I felt like, man, we was to take this on, we could do better.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, that's really what inspired me to become a brand,
Right.
as far as like to put something else out there as an option for people.
Mm-hmm. Now, was the cape your first project? Like, was that the first thing that you built as far as entering into the industry of barbering?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I came into the game with Barbers Are Hip Hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was just, how would I put it? That was just like something I did just straight out of my personal, like my personal things that I like.
Right.
Like aside from barbering, I loved hip hop. You know what I mean? I love old school hip hop. I love the new hip hop. It's just me. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I always felt like we, as the culture, played a major role in defining the looks of a lot of rappers
Right.
and a lot of ball players. Now, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now we define looks. You know what I mean? So just knowing that we defining looks, you know what I mean? I felt like somebody needed to say it. Like, barbers, come on, man. Ain't nobody saying barbers are hip hop. Like,
Right.
nobody saying who created this. At the end of the day, it was a barber that created a lot of these hairstyles that are legendary.
No question. We play a pivotal role in the image of the artist that you see today and the culture of hip hop and the style.
Exactly.
Yes.
Even before I got in the game, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I used to love these haircuts as a little kid. You know,
Right.
I used to want them. You know
What's
what I mean?
your favorite ones?
my favorite old school cuts.
Yeah, that inspired you hip hop.
Honestly, the skin fade is old school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They never really died. You know, it went away for a little while. The tape up came out, but the skin fade with any old school cut,
Right.
it just brings it out so much more. Whether it's a high top, Gumby, what else? Waves, you know, the half moon, anything you know, that skin fade just brings it out. So I would have to say, if you could say the skin fade on anything.
Change the game. Skin fade changed the
Absolutely,
fade.
you know,
change the game.
Absolutely.
Right,
100%. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid and I couldn't really get a cut, you know what I mean, because I couldn't afford it, you know what I mean, even though the cuts was like $10.
No question.
Back in the days, and you know, so I would go get a cut. The only thing I was really interested in was that damn fade. You know what I mean? Like I could get a skin fade and have whatever on top. That skin fade. I mean, the edge up was great, but because the edge up definitely brought the fade out more. But the clean skin fade, you know what I mean? That meant that you wasn't doing it yourself no more. You know what I mean? Or your man wasn't cutting your hair because that was a professional blend. You know what I mean? Unless you happen to have a homie that was super nice like that in the hood, which, you know, we only had like one.
I definitely think financial status played a big role in a lot of guys. Maybe they didn't intend to be a barber, but they intended to look good, even if they had to try and do it themselves. And not having the money to get a haircut on a regular basis led a lot of young people to try and do it themselves, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that was me and my mans, you know what I mean? Like, they would come to me, be like, yo, I got like $6.
Same here.
But don't worry, I got you. You know, I'll take care of you. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'll smoke you out, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I did it out of love. You know what I mean? I couldn't zeke them because then not only would they get made fun of, then I would get made fun of. Like, hey, yo, what you do to my man goatee, man? This is box. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know, like so then I wouldn't get no more clientele. You know what I mean? So, you know, yeah, but they were coming to me because they didn't want to go pay, you know, $10, $11 because, you know, they ain't have it like that. You know what I mean? Until everybody got to the point where they, you know, they ended up getting more money and, you know, got introduced to bigger things. And then you know, all of a sudden, getting your haircut was a real luxury. Right. You know what I mean?
I think when I first met you, it was like a pre-party for a barber battle or event. And I think you had some hats, Barbers of Hip Hop, and some things like that in your shop, correct?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Right. So getting back to Barbers of Hip Hop, yeah, that was the first thing I ever came out with. And it was definitely just dedicated to bringing the light to the fact that we're creators of style that ends up defining cultures. Right. You know what I mean? So I was trying to get the point across out there. You know, I enjoyed doing it more than anything. You know what I mean? Right. Because it was back then, you know, everyone was doing. I felt like everybody was doing something out of love back then. No question. You know? No question. So that was like something I did just out of straight love and fun. You know what I mean? And so right after that, you know, then King Midas became more of a necessity thing. You know, I felt like damn, like ain't nobody really putting this, you know, style and function and products that we can relate to. You know what I mean? Like if another barber do something and I know you're a barber, at least I know that you got an idea of what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're not just trying to get in it for just to cash out. You know what I mean? I'm looking at you like I know you know what we need. Right. You know what I mean? So I'll tend to like take your product more serious than all the rest of the stuff that's out there because you know, it's coming from an artist themselves. Right. So
solve a problem. That's the thing. So
then that became after Barbers of Hip Hop. But you know, we actually do plan on bringing Barbers of Hip Hop back and relaunch it. So it's something, like I said, it's something that it's like a fun project. Right.
Tell me about the name. What inspired the name King Midas? Because some people might not know that story, and I don't know if the name has anything to do with the story, but it's everything he touches turns to gold. So tell me about the King Midas name.
Well, the King Midas name, the inspiration behind it, came from my personal experiences as to where I had that turning point in my life where either I was going to do something positive or just fall in line with the stereotypes and, you know, the actual repercussions of living that negative lifestyle. Right. So I had to think and really think about, now I know I want to do something more for the barbering community, but what does this really mean to me? Like this, how do I incorporate how I really feel about barbering into my product? So that's where King Midas came at, because I actually felt like my clippers and everything was like a savior to me. So to me, it was almost like gold. Right. You know what I mean? So a lot of barbers could relate to the fact that, their backs was to the wall at one point, and, they might have been the only person that believed in themselves. But, I looked at my clippers like, my clippers is always here for me. You know what I mean? Like, they ain't going to judge me. At the end of the day, I got to make $1, you know what I mean? And I'm in a hole or whatever, and I'm in a jam, and somebody want to cut, boom, I got you. You know what I mean? It's always there for
You can
me.
always
So,
make money.
yeah, always a plan.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could do anything with your clippers. You can move anywhere in the world. And if you're nice with it, you'll be able to get a little paper. So, I was like paying homage to what made me or what enabled me to take my passion and actually make it materialize to something.
Right. So, did you have the name before you worked on the product, or did you figure out the name after you started manufacturing the capes?
I'm one of them people that if it don't got no meaning, I don't even do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It's got to have a meaning. Like, if
Right.
if I don't feel like a product, like I'm looking at it, and if I feel like I want to do something, but it really don't mean nothing to me,
Right.
I can't do it, man. I'm not one of them dudes that just pushes stuff out just to please people or clout chase. You know what I mean? I gotta really have an idea of something that I want to do, but then at the same time, it's gotta have feeling behind it, and it's gotta have meaning behind it. If it don't mean nothing to me, then I'll let somebody else do it. You know?
Right. So, what steps were taken after you thought about what you were going to do? You had your name. How did you move towards finding a manufacturer, designing, and so on?
Well, I was pretty much like handcrafting my stuff myself. You know what I mean? So, I'm over here in New York City, so we have access to so many districts and the fashion and anything that has to do with, how could I put it? Anything that has to do with being able to take something and make it happen. I think New York is definitely that spot.
Bringing ideas to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever I ever needed to do anything, I was always like thankful that I was in New York City, because in New York City I was able to do everything that I've ever wanted to do. So whenever I needed to do anything, I would be in and out of the city, boom, boom, testing stuff out, making sure that everything was just right, doing everything by hand until I was able to actually come up with something that I would say is legit and everyone could love. But then again, like there's a lot of times when I've done projects and they never came to be because they just ain't passed the test. You know what I mean? I don't put something out just so people could say, "Wow, that's great, that's cool."
Right.
That's something that we ain't never seen before. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's got to have everything to it. All the aspects got to be together as far as functionality, as far as looks, as far as it also got to represent the profession
Right.
a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just gonna disrespect the profession, just to try to make $1 off a project.
So, tell me around what time did you launch your first cape? When did you put it into the industry? Around what date?
Well, I would say the end of after actually 2013, and I remember my man Ty, he was there with me, and we was in a barbershop, and I was telling him, I'm like, man, there's so much garbage out here, man. These people just trying to sell us whatever, man. And then I was like, yo, I've been coming up with some ideas, and I said it and I showed it to him, and he was like, yo, that's just fire.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right. He's like, and then I was like, I'm gonna call it King Midas, and he just cracked up. You know what I mean? But I didn't explain to him the meaning behind it. You know what I mean? I was just, because people don't look at the meaning. People just be like, oh, that's fire. You know what I mean? But to me, it had actual meaning in my heart. Mm-hmm. So, at that point, that was around in the summer, I believe, and I was already working on it. So, the final product, I would say, right before, I would say around the end of that summer, because I had did an event, an art event, and in I believe February of the next year, and that's when I actually had it for everybody. You know what I mean? But it was for sale before that.
Right.
But that's when I had kind of introduced it formally.
Right. And
I don't know if you were there. I mean, it was a lot.
What event was it, if you remember?
It was a Barbers Art Hip Hop party.
Okay. At your shop or at an art gallery?
Art gallery. I had an art gallery where we had live artists, and we had elements of hip hop. Everything was incorporated into an art gallery to showcase barbers, hairstylists, and the whole culture as an art. So we got a nice little art gallery. They had paintings, live painters. So that was the time where it was officially out there. Like everybody had them. Everybody was cutting with them. That was way back. And I don't know if you were there. That was around the time of one of your barber battles, or right before one of your barber battles.
Okay. When did you know that you really hit the mark and you knew that you had something special?
It was instant. Yeah, it was instant.
Instantly.
Yeah, it was instant.
Now, did you hit the circuit and do multiple barber battles, hair shows to get it out there as a vendor?
Nah. In the beginning, I didn't do any battles. I didn't do any battles in the beginning because, like I said, it was kind of the end of the summer when it was launched. So
Right.
I don't think I did any events till the next year after. But by then, it was already big. You know what I mean? It was already like real big. So.
And how do you think it got big? Because in 2013, 2014, I'm not sure if Instagram and that social media was really at the forefront at the time. So how did you? Now it's international.
You know what? It was actually a lot of it was the fact that Instagram. I did have an Instagram in 2013.
All right.
So it was going viral.
Right.
A lot of times. It was definitely, I don't think that, actually I know for a fact that there was no other barber capes,
Right.
That were catered or done by barbers.
Right.
Catered directly to a barber
Right.
until King Midas. I think I could say that for a fact.
Right.
I know there's a lot of, I didn't invent the damn cape, but I think I came out with the first cape that was certified by the barbers, like worldwide.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, this
Right.
cape is probably the best cape I ever had in my
Right.
life, So, and it was like, everybody was intrigued by it. So
Right.
it made that mark. And then, so from that point on, it kind of like took off with the Instagram and I guess Facebook and, some of the repost pages, Barbershop Connect,
Right.
if somebody was to see that, where'd you get that cape? It was one of those. And, so that was when, I guess Instagram was young. I
Right.
don't know what year it came out. But
Right.
I think that was 2013.
So how did you figure out the supply and demand part? Because
I didn't.
I know there had to be a point
I
where
didn't,
you were
you know.
behind the eight ball with
I'm
getting into people.
I'm a barber, first of all. Let's get it straight. So,
yeah.
I'm a barber before anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a learning process as a barber and a barbershop owner, which my barbershop to me was always the first priority. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Foundation.
Well, not only the foundation, I have barbers that I got to make sure that, as I'm sure as a business owner,
Right.
ain't nothing can come before your barbershop. Your barber's got
That's right.
Your barber's got to eat. They pay you rent, whatever, commission, whatever.
That's right.
You got to make sure that the barbershop is always on the up and up.
Right.
I'm proud to say, knock on wood, like, my lights ain't never got cut off. You know what I mean? I ain't never
Yes.
had those. If I feel like my barbershop is lacking and my barbers can't really get money, then there's a problem with me. Not to say that they're not responsible for themselves and promoting themselves. I'm just saying my establishment has to be available for them to be able to come in when they need to make their money, support their families, and do what they got to do. So the barbershop to me was always number one.
Right.
King Midas and all my other projects were always number two.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Of course.
And I
And
know you
usually
know.
the barbershop funds all your ideas.
Right.
Like mine's do for me.
Absolutely. That's bread and butter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you can't play with that.
Mhm.
So I never like looked at Barbers at Hip Hop or King Midas or any other brand as like, damn, I'm shutting my shop down. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put 100% into this. Not that people may look at that and frown on that, but the fact is, I'm responsible for other people's families.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna be selfish and put all my ideas and all my creation before something I already started. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was always the balancing act. Trying to figure out how I'm gonna incorporate, the barbershop business with my brands.
Right.
So it came to a point where I had to balance it. And now I feel like I got a good balance. You know what I mean? So
How did you tell me how did you
well,
figure it out?
I mean, I can't work at the shop 7 days a week no more. You know what I mean? I got a lot of responsibilities now, but I'm at my shop 2, 3 times a week religiously.
Right.
On time, there before everybody else, probably there afterwards, you know what I mean? And I'm blessed to say that, my shop is good, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
everybody's making money, everybody's happy. And to me that was always a priority. So then that's how by me scaling back a little bit and finding a nice balancing act, that's how I was able to actually put more thought behind any other projects that I took on.
And did you find a way? Because I know initially when the capes came out, they were a little more pricey, and now I see that you scaled back. Is that because you found better ways to manufacture?
Well, obviously, like after so many years now, I figured out that I can actually make more and actually take care of my demand better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like supply and demand. Like you got to be able to make sure that you can actually supply that demand.
Right.
So now I'm able to, as my business grew, now I can supply the demand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Before, I was like 1 foot here and 1 foot in the shop, 50-50.
Right.
Or maybe 90-10 in the beginning, and then eventually got to 50-50. But if I'm 99% of the time in the shop, it's hard for me to really focus and figure out how I can handle the supply and demand. But, it comes with years of me doing King Midas. Now I'm able to gauge it better. So it was definitely a learning curve, but I figured out the supply and demand a lot better. Mm-hmm. And I mean, King Midas is always like, now it's like always a project. Like it's always pulling me in further. You know what I mean? Because there's so much of a demand worldwide now.
Right. So how do you feel when it went international? Did it go international immediately, or?
Yeah, pretty much, man.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. It pretty much was. I mean, I don't think that there is too many places that receive packages where that damn cape hasn't been to.
Right.
I'm talking about, you name it. Like places that I never knew existed.
Right.
Like where the fuck is this? Like, damn, hold on. So, that was quick, that was fast. And, like I said, it was surprising at first, and now it's like a job, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not a job is to say I hate it, but it's like a job because it's demanding.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, it's work now.
Right.
Back then it was more of an amusement thing, like, damn, this went to Moscow or whatever.
Right.
This went to,
how do you deal with the fanfare? Because I know it's had to reflect on you personally as people knowing who's behind the product, wanting to meet you, maybe when you go to hair shows and so on and so forth.
I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I mean, when I go to shows, people are like, and I'm actually flattered by a lot of it. People be like, "Yo, I came here just to see you." Like that means a lot to me. You know what I mean? Like, coming from where I came from, it means a lot to know that I could turn my life around and impact people like that, because I want to be an inspiration for people like me and, people like barbers that, ended up not having many options in life and then turning them around positively,
Right.
So at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. So
Right.
me being able to go to hair shows and receiving that type of love, I have no choice but to be grateful, So
Right.
I like to tell those people I'm grateful, And that's what my page, the King Midas page, is pretty much all about. If you look at it, it ain't just me advertising my life or my products. A lot of times me showing other barbers love,
Right.
For supporting me, you know what I mean? But it's more of them. You might see more of them than more of me. You know what I mean? And my page was like that from the gate, Like I was probably one of the first to do that as well, to just dedicate it to your supporters, your people that supported you. You show them love, instead of me putting my life out there or my face everywhere or my products every damn post. I like to let people know I appreciate you, especially if you were there from the beginning, because, that's loyalty. So
Could dig it.
yeah.
Where's the main resource or website that people can get the cape?
It's KingMidasEmpire.com.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you also branched out and sell it in other locations, or do they other maybe catalogs or shops or something, or do they have to get the cape from you?
At this time, nah, we just take care of everything ourselves.
Right.
You know, because we don't try to kind of spread it out everywhere at this point. You know, it's trying to kind of just try to keep it to not to a minimum, but more of a smaller circulation. You know what I mean? I don't think at this point I need to be everywhere. You
Right.
know, but you know, people know how to contact me by now. You know,
Right.
I mean, sometimes you know I work with so many barbershop owners and so many different people that I take care of people. So you know, people that know, they know. They hit me up and you know I take care of them.
Right. And the price right now of the cape,
Well, my basic price right now is $34.99.
$34.99. And I see you also came out with an apron.
Yeah, we have aprons, we have barber jackets. Yeah, the apron came out early too.
Mhm.
You know, the apron came out right after the cape, so it was like a set. You know, and it was the first time I've ever seen, you know, you could wear an apron and a cape that matched back then.
Right.
You know? So I made them a kind of like a deal, you know.
Right.
So to have that, and then we have barber jackets, then we have aprons, you know.
Right. What's your sales like? Estimate maybe. You know, do you keep track of that?
I mean, I could, but I don't want to put my numbers out.
I
there.
could dig it.
The world be already looking at me crazy, like, yo, I want to be like you, man. Like, I want to make capes like you, and I'm looking at you like, yo, man, come on, man. I want to inspire you, but you be you, my brother.
Right.
You know,
I've seen more companies started making custom capes. You know, how you feel about that?
I mean, I think that it's good. People DM me all the time like, yo, this guy stole your style. Yo, these Chinese people stole your style. What happened was initially, and this is something that ain't never been told, but it's something I feel like I got to tell a lot of barbers. Because, you know, when I got in the game, you know, I was getting propositioned by a lot of people. You know, everybody want to be down with you. You know how that is.
Right.
So there was a company that actually emailed me. And, you know, they're looking at me, you know, probably thinking that I'm one of these type of people that will just jump to any company and sponsor me or whatever it is, yada,
Right.
yada. You know, everybody want to get some sort of, how could you put it, some sort of cosign, you know what I mean, by somebody that is corporate or whatever.
Is this company a bigger company?
Of course,
Okay.
of course. I mean, all the companies are bigger. Now these companies are in the game to, you know, pretty much take people's ideas. So at first they hit me up and, you know, they wanted me to work with them. You know what I mean? But then it got to a point where, you know, I'm kind of like, I was early in the game and I'm independent barber brand. You know what I mean? I was kind of proud of that. You know what I mean? To be independently barber owned.
Make your own rules.
Well, inspire barbers to, yo,
Right.
we can do this ourselves. You know what I mean? You don't got to sell out the first chance you get.
You're
or
right.
the second or the third.
You're right.
So they propositioned me, and then the guy was like, you know, let me give you a call. Maybe we could talk about this. So we spoke about it. You know what I mean? I listened to him, you know. And at the end of the day, I felt like, okay, I already see where this is going. So I you know, respectfully declined. And those were some of the first people that knocked my cape off. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's how the game goes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you said, a bigger company.
Right.
So that kind of became like, oh, everybody looking at these people. Yo, they knocked them off. So most barbers were like, yo, man, I respect you, man. I'm going to rock with you. I could tell these people this ain't right. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you do it for the culture. These people just doing it basically just to knock you out the position. And, you know, but then you got, you know, a lot of other barbers that don't feel that way, you know. 'Cause
Yeah. They don't know where to get it. It's easier.
Exactly. And then,
I don't know the company, but I've seen the cape that looks close to your cape.
Absolutely. So they know I know who they are. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
they know. And
Did
they
you
know
ever
I know what
reach
they
out
did.
to them and say anything in regards to that?
You know what? The bottom line is they know that I know, and if they want to live with the fact that they trying to take a real food out of a real barber's mouth at the end of the day,
Right.
then that's what their company's principles is based on.
You care to say that company's name?
Absolutely not.
I can dig it. I
you
just
know why?
asked.
Because the company knows I know who they are, but they know, and all you gotta do is go find the nearest knockoff. They also have another brand that they created, and kind of like a fake barber brand.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the state of, I guess, the industry.
Yeah, they say imitation is flattery, right?
Absolutely. And I was flattered because it actually made more people come to me. Like, yo, I seen that knockoff, but don't worry, man. I'm gonna buy yours. Matter of fact, let me get like 6 of them. You know what I mean? So they was like, yo, this is real barber love. So
yeah.
like to me, that even strengthened me more because a lot of barbers understood.
Yeah, and I disagree. I think imitation is lack of creativity. So I don't really take that, the same way.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you why I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you create something that the people don't really love, they're not gonna want to get in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
right.
I felt like, damn, I got this company and all these other people like looking at me like, yo, I want to be like him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take his style because his style is so appealing. Like if you really feel that way about my products, then man, that's letting me know
you're on point.
I mean, I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? So I don't really, I'd hate to look at it the other way because then I think I'd be like stooping to their level. Like I don't want to copy your shit is whack. Like, all these people's stuff that I'm looking at is like you said, is a lack of creativity. Right. So why would I be mad? When I know that my stuff you guys love, that's letting me know that I'm doing something right.
I could dig it. So what's next up for the King Midas brand?
Well, actually, I got Barbers of Hip Hop. Like I said, I'm relaunching Barbers of Hip Hop, because that's something really, really fun to me. King Midas is kind of like on autopilot. You know what I mean? Like, we already know what we need to do with King Midas. You know what I mean? I like a challenge. So to me, Barbers of Hip Hop was a challenge, as well, because it's kind of like bringing more attention to the culture as a whole. Right. You know what I mean? Like, contributions that we have done that have never really officially been documented. So somebody need to get on their ass and like start making a motherfucking documentary about the actual barbers, input in culture. You know what I mean? Like, we've done a lot, So like that stuff like that to me is challenging, and I wouldn't mind like doing something like that. Like King Midas I love King Midas because King Midas is my life story almost. Mm-hmm. But it's people already relate to what I'm trying to say. Right. You know what I mean? So if you're a real barber and you know the story behind King Midas, and then you actually get the product, it's like, how can you hate it? You know what I mean? Like if you hate it, then you're just a hater because it does what it's supposed to do, and it represents our story. Yeah, the culture of hip hop. Using a cape to or whatever, using our tools to get where we need to be in life. But yeah, so King Midas is basically always gonna be there. I feel. I think King Midas is more of a legacy thing too. Mm-hmm. And we relaunching Barbers of Hip Hop. Okay, so what we got coming up for Barbers of Hip Hop? I just want to try to emphasize the culture somehow artistically, the way we played a part in it artistically. So, it's more or less putting our fingerprint in the hip hop culture more. I don't think anybody has ever really done that, because we've done so much, and I don't think anybody's ever really put it out there. I mean, I don't even know. I know some of the I'm not even that well versed in who created some of these hairstyles. Right. As far as I think the hairstyles you probably never know, but you could know who cut the head of the person or entertainer who made it global. You know what I mean? I'm still trying to figure out who cuts Eminem's hair. Yeah. Well, I don't think Eminem ain't known for his haircut. Well, he always had a cut. Yeah, but certain cuts are synonymous with artists like Big Daddy Kane and the flat top, Bobby Brown and the Gumby. Big Daddy Kane, that's already. If you from New York City and you don't know who was his barber, right? Then you ain't really cultured enough. You know what I mean? Right. We all know that, but like that's what I'm saying. Like there's so many different artists that have so many unique looks created by barbers. Mm-hmm. And it's more or less the influence that barber had on that style, and then that style is what actually sold these artists a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like look at Vanilla Ice. I look at that picture and I crack up, but way back in the days, nobody ever would have thought, who the hell did that? Like, cut that flat top on him, which is he recreated probably the people he looked up to. You didn't always see that was more like a military cut for a white guy to have a flat top. You know what I mean? And skin sides, but it was the normal fashion in the 80s, late 80s for hip hop culture. And I'm sure he was inspired by
the artists who were already wearing that hairstyle, and he just had to do his own version of it.
But there was a story behind some barber that was forced to pull that off.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He probably was like, "Yo, I don't think you built for this, my man." You know? He was like, "Nah, I want 10 parts on the side."
Yeah.
You know, and then like Fresh Prince and them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like the story behind it. You know what I mean? And the influence and how it became the look of these celebrities, and then that in turn created that culture. You know.
Right. Definitely people referred to haircuts from the artists. Like people, when I was cutting hair on 125th Street in like 1988, you know, people was coming in here saying, I want my hair like Big Daddy Kane. Where they might not have said I wanted a flat top or a high top fade. They said, I want my hair cut like Big Daddy Kane.
And
you
that
know
was,
what I mean?
that was crazy because at least now they could pull a picture out and be like this.
Yeah.
But back then, if you didn't know what Big Daddy Kane's haircut looked like,
Right.
you know, you was in trouble because
Yeah.
you know you wasn't gonna pull that off properly, even if they explained it to you. You know, you had to know.
Exactly.
But some barber somewhere defined that look for him, and then he took that look and created a whole,
Right.
you know, enhanced his image.
His dancer, Scoop Lover, a friend of mine, cut his hair.
Absolutely,
You know,
I think
and-
that's a legendary picture.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think it was not only the barber who was responsible. They actually did the cut, but it's the culture of hip hop, which inspires. Those haircuts come from the community, right? And the artist is only doing what's popular in his community, and the barber's capable of doing that because he knows what's hot. You know, so it's not like the barber who cut the flat top created the flat top for Big Daddy Kane. Everybody was wearing a flat top.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
he's the one that put it on TV, just like Michael Jackson and the moonwalk. You know, people were already moonwalking, but Michael Jackson made it popular, global,
Right.
like Bo Derek and the braids.
Yeah,
I mean,
Kid and Play. You know what I
right.
mean? That
Yeah.
that flat top, like
yeah,
you know, it took a certain amount of expertise to be able to box that out like that. You know,
Mhm.
and that you know, how much millions did that generate for that actor? You know, and then once that flat top was gone, he was gone.
right.
You know what I mean? Because that was like his mojo right there.
When Curtis put that burst fade or South of France, whatever you want to call it, on Usher, I mean, it took on a whole nother life.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. So I just feel like I created that. You know, I made that term, I guess. But and then I try to like wrap things around it. But I think that's something that just needs to just definitely be more noticed.
yeah.
You know
I
what
mean,
because it's culture, and at the end of the day, I
Right.
think everybody trying to sell culture now. But
Right.
real culture comes from, like you said,
the people.
the people on ground zero. It don't come from Instagram or
The TV,
Facebook.
right.
Or culture comes from the environment,
Right.
and we're on the bottom of this environment. Like
Right.
we know what culture is, and you know people will try to tell you they know that what culture is. Crazy because people try to tell us what culture is.
Right.
Like, I see people that don't have culture
Right.
talking about culture,
Right.
which is crazy nowadays. But that's the industry now,
Right.
you know. But the people that really are on the culture that and really have lived it and even created it
Right.
don't get to tell the story enough.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, to move forward, you got to know the past, and
Right.
that's why I feel things like that are important.
People live and live culture, and in the meantime, it's created at the same time. I don't even think you know.
Exactly.
You don't know that I'm creating something
It's a
that's going to
natural.
last.
It's a natural process.
Yeah, it's culture's lived.
It's a natural process.
I could dig it. So tell people how they can reach you. For those that might not know, living under a rock somewhere.
For those that don't know, Instagram at King Midas Empire. You could visit the website and view the catalog, kingmidasempire.com. I appreciate everyone's support, and I appreciate Kamal for inviting me down here. By the way, Kamal, I heard you had the first barber battle. Is that true, or correct me if I'm wrong? 'Cause
Well-
I'm not. I don't go, and I hate to not know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to ask you personally because
Right.
I don't know that history. I was
Right.
introduced to you actually
Right.
not a long time ago. It was kind of recent in comparison to the history that
Right.
I guess the culture has, right?
Right.
So Who created the first barber battle?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm kind of like the barber for the Big Daddy Kane haircut, you know, whereas I didn't create a barber battle, but I created it in the style that you see it today with 5 categories. I created the speed battle. I created the old school battle. You know, I created the female battle. So I've only experienced it once or twice before then, and it was usually a traditional cut and maybe a design.
So when was your first barber
my
battle?
first
Like,
barber
what
battle
year?
was in November in 2010. And
that
that's
was
what
years before
right.
before I was in the industry.
That's
what I'm
what
saying. I didn't know about that.
everyone you see pretty much today, they were there or they couldn't get in because the line was wrapped around the block twice.
I wish I was there, but I mean, I commend that because
Yeah, thank you.
You know, you're a pioneer.
Yeah, thank you.
So, you know, people was like, yeah, that dude was the first bar. I think he made
Right.
the first barber battle. I was like, I don't
Right.
know, I'm gonna have to ask him.
What I did was make people, I covered it the right way, I promoted it the right way, and people that were involved, most of them are now very popular.
Awesome.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Besides the last maybe 5-year internet sensations, I mean, everybody was involved in some way within the first 5 battles.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, to see that things have come to a point where it's this popular, is I think is good, you know, because it kind of lets us know we have more worth
Yeah,
than actually just cutting hair.
right.
You know. So I always tend to look at it like that. You know, like people say, man, it's so watered down. I don't like the
Yeah.
barber battles no more. And you know, I know where they're coming from, but at the same time, before we had none.
Right.
I felt like before we had none.
Yeah, we had a little small space in the beauty shows, and it also skyrocketed the barber entrepreneur to create a
Yeah,
product or
absolutely.
service, and he had a platform to express it. So at these barber battles, you would see barbers who created something for the industry. They have an opportunity to go straight to the barbers and show them what we've done. And that's what, you know, that's one of the good things about the barber battles and barber expos. A barber who thinks of something that the industry is lacking and produces it can now go and test his product.
In the market,
In
and then
the
they could
market.
meet you,
Right.
and then they could. That's awesome because that is the beginning of that bond between, you know, an actual customer of yours
That's right.
and the brand, because you actually do meet these people and they tell you, like, you know, like people be like, yo, man, your cape, man, you know, as soon as I put it on people, man, they always notice and they like, yo, you really care about the craft, man, you know?
Wow.
So like you would never know that feedback, you know, you got to have that personal interaction.
I could dig it. Well, brother, thank you for coming down, spending a little time with me, and I'm sure people will appreciate your story for those that don't know, you know, and I wish you much success.
Absolutely, man. Like I was telling my man, who gonna turn down the opportunity to come to 125 and at the same time talk to Kamal, one of the barber battle pioneers.
No doubt.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you, brother. Peace.
I've been cutting these heads for years. It made me a master. There's rules to this shit to get money faster. A cut by cut booklet for you to get your game on track. Not your lines pushed back. Rule number uno.